All right, so we had a request on YouTube to see a little bit of Esper Shadow with like some updates with some of the current sets. And unfortunately, there's not really a lot in the current sets that I think slot into a Stoneblade list like this. But if you are running a more traditional Esper Shadow list, then maybe you find the card needs a little bit different. But for this build, we're really looking at like taking advantage of cards like Stoneforge Mystic, Teferi Time Reveler to give us a big late game boost. Stop some of the degenerate stuff with Teferi. Stoneforge allows us to pick up Feast and Famine or Fire and Ice or Cauldra to help really push our game plan forward. Uh, Other than that, it's like a stereotypical Shadow core. We've got Thought Seizes, Shadow themselves. We got Esper Sentinels as a way to help gain a little bit of card advantage in the early game. Drown and Lock and Spell Pierce for some interaction, along with Fatal Push, Prismatic Ending. In the sideboard, we've got some Soul Guide Lanterns and an Unlicensed Hearse for Grave Hate, things like Murktide, Infernal Grasp, some Fluster Storms, Mystical Disputes, 2 Turok. Great option to bring in against the white base removal decks. Additional copy of Fatal Push for the aggressive stuff. A third copy of Teferi for the unfair stuff. And this funky little Batter Skull here to gain us life against like the aggro decks, your Merfolk, your Zoo decks, Burn, anything like that. Where Shadow is good if you find it, but Batter Skull gives you like a 5 of with your 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic that you can just go and grab at any point. So let's hop in, see what happens. We get banned from Twitch for taking Tylenol on stream. Sure, it's against the terms and service somewhere. All right, what do we got for round one? On the die roll, would you like to play first? I would. I would, in fact. Reasonable hand, like turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Ledger Shredder. Prismatic Ending if we need to interact with something early. Just like a fetch land or something away from another shadow or another threat with shadow. Opponent mulls to 5, so do I care more about blue or white here? Probably white. Little Yawgmoth. So I think I'm just going to take the Eldritch Evolution. I can Prismatic Ending the birds. Prismatic Ending the Strangleroot Geist. Even better. So now I get to Inquisition away the Strangleroot Geist and Prismatic Ending the bird. Away. Be gone. So they've got a Yavimaya and an Urborg, so all of our lands are bayous in addition to their other types. Stanford, what's up? Dude, why don't you love me? I didn't know I didn't love you. Didn't know not loving you was an option. So kind of a funny situation here. If we find another land because of this Yavamaya, we can actually prismatic ending for 4 and take out a Yawgmoth. And I think that's kind of hilarious. All right. Young Wolf Unknown. So let's go. I think what I'm going to do is attack with Ledger Shredder. Teferi is going to bounce the Shredder. Draw a card. Play Teferi or play Ledger Shredder as my first spell for turn. And then Prismatic ending the Young Wolf to get a Connive trigger. Second land is great. So Young Wolf goes away. We can fetch Shock, play Shadow. Sego. That is, in fact, a bird of paradise. Stoneforge Mystic is pretty lit here. So let's cast. I do not want to discard what I get off Stoneforge Mystic. So I'm going to go to combat first. I can actually probably just like. Yeah, I can just play the Stoneforge. I don't need to play the Fatal Push here. And I think I'm just going to get Eastern Famine. Protect one of our threats from a Yawgmoth. I was going to say, like, big props to opponent for sticking it out this long against Shadow, Shredder, Teferi. Good on them. We got March, we got Hearse. Batterskull's reasonable. Soul Guide's okay. It's a lot worse when like all of our removals already just exile based outside of Fatal Push and Drown. But we've also got Lion Sash we can get. So Spell Pierce is a little meh. Drown's a little meh. Fairy's probably pretty meh. Let's do something like this. Bringing in Batterskull because if it does get to a life total race or we're both like in top deck mode, then just getting a Batterskull and throwing it down is like fine. All right. I'm a pretty big proponent of killing the bird here because they've got so many like impactful 3-drops. Eldritch Evolution, Grist, or even just like a Wall of Roots plus something are pretty big. Cap on the bottle broke off. We're going to do our best to not knock over that water bottle. Kevin, I'll get around to that one day, but we finished, both of our leagues finished 4-1. But the second league, we lost like the 4th round, I think. So we weren't playing for the trophy. But still a solid showing with Demir. Like 8-2 on the day with a couple shadow decks, still in bad. And now we're playing Stoneblade, so you know it's got to be reasonable. Maybe. Could Prismatic ending the ignoble. Maybe this line ends up being a little too greedy. If they got like a Grist, they're going to be able to play it this turn. I'm not going to have any pressure on it anyway, so. There's the man, the myth, the legend himself. Really hoping for 3rd land there. So I could Prismatic ending and kill the Grist. I guess at least this way I can like attack the Grist and possibly set up a decision for them to either have to trade off the Grist or maybe they don't have any good follow-up. Cauldron complete, eh? Got a cord. Yep. It's kind of crazy how good cards like Wall of Roots are in this deck, but like nothing else. Same thing with Grist. It's like so good in this deck, but everything else is pretty or every other deck with Grist is pretty lackluster. Yeah, that means you too, Jun mid-range. PB, we're on our 3rd league. The first 2 both finished at 4-1. So we're seeing if we can get similar results out of this league. But unfortunately, it's trying to pull from like my old MTGO account. So I've got to figure out how to go about updating that. All right, we will scoop to a cord for 4. All right. Really need to get out ahead of Grist. Maybe both Batterskull and Cauldra is a little bit much. Cauldra could be a pretty good, like, surprise blocker with a Stone Forge. But, okay. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Stone Forge for something. Turn 3 push. Turn 4 push. Turn 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 push. Did I not update the deck list? Whoops. Let me do that real quick. Do I just want to jam Stone Forge here? I think I do. Jam you, get... Fire and Ice would be really good. Feast and Famine would be really good. Lion Sash stops combo. I'm just going to go Feast and Famine. All right, deck list should be updated now. So, bam. No, why does that still say Demir? Deck list. There we go. All right, what basics do we have in here? Basic island, basic swamp, no basic plains. So let's go for a fatal push on a birds. Let's get a basic island. We'll say go. I have to take a little bit of a hit here. This would be like that perfect time to have the, what's it called, Cauldra in hand. Ooh, Shadow's a really good draw. So we are going to strap up a Stone Forge. Attack in for 3. Discard Yawgmoth. Let's see. So this will be going down to 5. Yeah, so I'm not dead to another Strangleroot Geist off the top. And yes, I could have like Marsh Flats pre-combat, fetch up a tap land, attack, untap it, but I want to lose the life here. I want to make Shadow potentially lethal if I just find like another land. Or my opponent does the work for me and I don't have to do anything. So they've got no cards in hand, nothing on board. I take this 4, untap, I move over the sword and kill them. Good talk. I could also just like fatal push the ignoble. I could pretty much have free reign to do whatever I feel like doing. But we're going to do it this way. Hashtag SoFaf things. Just SoFaf things. But always feels good to start off 1-0. You can't be 2-0 without starting off 1-0. Or as our high school football coach would always say, like, you can't have a perfect season without starting off 1-0. Thanks, coach. Glad we cleared the air up in that one. Testin. I feel like I played this person not too long ago. Let's go get a Godless Shrine. Thoughtseize. Scam. Am I just taking the grief so they can't scam my shadow? Yeah, I think I'm going to. If I get the sword down, I don't really care about the Blood Moon. Sword of Feast and Famine is nemesis for Yawgmoth player. Yeah. Statement you are making is accurate. There's this. Play you, say go. Please don't fury me. Blood Moon me if you would like. I guess Blood Moon's also like draw a card here. Sword of Fire and Ice. Oh man. I don't care if it's not good. I love this deck sometimes. A Sword of Fire and Ice, 2 1/1s, and a basic. Let's go. Let's do it. March is probably better than Prismatic Ending because I can't hit a Blood Moon if I float mana. Cauldron is great. Fire and Ice, Feast and Famine are both reasonable. Lion Sash seems fine. Board out like some hand disruption, especially on the draw. Teferi can answer a scam, but I think it's really slow on the draw. Maybe I'll consider more on the play. A little heavy on Grave Hate. Do something like this. March of Otherworldly Light, indeed. It's like 5th Prismatic Ending for the most part. But you have that random upside of being able to tag like Urza's Sagas or artifact lands and stuff for 1. Since it doesn't specify non-land permanent. Is a good answer for Blood Moon. If you float the mana. But if you're like really concerned about Blood Moon, I'd probably go more on the plan of like Disenchant or something instead of March. Turn 1 tap plan. Love to see it. What you got? We're just taking their second land. Take the Malakir Rebirth. Say, let's do it. Maybe we should have played that out to try to protect. I could play out Shredder, but I'm playing it right into a known bolt. But I guess if that's a bolt on Shredder, it's not a bolt on, like, Shadow. So... maybe we'll pass. This is 2 less for everything, right? So I could March, Exile Ending, and Teferi if I needed to snag, like, a Fury. I think we're just gonna Teferi here, bounce the Dolphy. Basically, for that reason right there, hit land. I guess they get Blood Moon here. That'd be a little unfortunate. But if they don't Blood Moon right here, then I have, like, March after this. So... I guess it's kind of a one turn window for land Blood Moon. Spinning Beach Ball of Death. Opponent disconnecting is also an answer to Blood Moon if that if we're looking for all possible outs here. It's not my connection. Have much running. Task manager. All right, cool. So they missed the land drop. I find one of my 2 basics. Dolphy's down. They've got Lightning Bolt, Fury, Fury, Blood Moon. I can Prismatic Ending a Blood Moon now. So what if I went like Shadow, Fetch Land, Go? Like, not really worth it. And I guess it's fine. I could give them a land off this, but it would be a Flooded Strand, which is like, whatever. If you want to attack down to Fairy, that's A-okay. Another copy of Dolphy. Blood Moon, Fury, Fury, Lightning Bolt. So let's get a Hallowed Fountain. We can Prismatic Ending still, despite not having a Teferi, because his activation there stays around. So we'll get rid of Dolphy, untap. Let's get a. I don't want to be dead to double bolt. Not really. But play a Sword of Feast and Famine. Strap it up on a Shadow. Attack with the Shadow. Discard. We get all of our lands back. And I think we're going to. What have I exiled? Prismatic Ending to Fairy. I don't want them having any of these, so I think I'm going to Shredder, March of Otherworldly Light to Dolphy. Say go. This way, if they do kill the Shadow, I guess if they have Scam Fury plus Bolt, they could potentially get me here. But if they have to, like, Scam Fury off one card, scam another Fury off another card, Might not be enough. EE is reasonable. So they scammed a Fury off of a Fury. They still have a Bolt. We've got a whole bunch of swords, so if we find a threat, we can strap it up. All right. Oh. Shadow off the top. Go power Esper Sentinel. Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and prismatic ending here. Exile you. Attack. We will. Sword of Fire and Ice is gonna ping a token. This deck is sweet. Yeah. Down with Scam. That 2-0 start with Esper Shadowblade. So I'll do my call to action while we're waiting on our third round opponent. If you're new to the channel, if you're enjoying the content or commentary, anything like that, feel free to hit the follow button. Doesn't cost you anything. Just lets you know whenever we go live so you can come hang out again. Exclamation Twitter gives like the link to my Twitter. So if you're ever wanting to check out any future streams, that's like the first place it gets updated, first place it goes live. Exclamation Discord in the chat gives you a link to the Control Freak Discord if you're ever wanting to hop over, talk anything Death Shadow, talk about what's up on the lineup for future streams, anything like that. WCH0034, thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome Monday or Tuesday, wherever you're at in the world. Appreciate you coming around and hanging out. And then exclamation YouTube in chat also gives a link to our YouTube channel. So if you're ever wanting to see this or other leagues of various shadow brews or innovations, ideas, anything like that, just whatever we're testing at the moment, then that's a really cool place to check that out. And that's about it. That's our call to action. Woo. Everybody go crazy. I would not mind getting an opportunity to Drown in the Lock or Renin 6 here. That is not the land I expected out of my Yorion pile opponent. Maybe I'm crazy, but I expected them to play something with a little more, I don't know, triome to that mean I'm supposed to slam Shadow? No. Oh, yeah. Not counterspelling me off an Overgrown Tomb, so. I'm going to go ahead and get my draw here. With Overgrown Tomb into Rogren Triumph, there's a reasonable chance that they've got like a Leyline Binding. And I think I just want to like go ahead and get the value out of this Teferi. They might just be playing a Teferi of their own. Yep. They're also going to draw right away. Let's go ahead and deal with their Teferi. See what the follow-up is. So some of the Shadowblade lists we played early on were running Phyrexian Crusader, the 1/2 black, pro red, pro white, 2/2 first strike infector. This is like a matchup that card's pretty good against. All right, so let's go for the Drown here. And we'll hit him with the draw step, Thoughtseize. Wish. Oh, it's Scapeshift. Okay. Does this change things? I think I'm just going to take the prismatic ending. If they bolt the Teferi, then I've just got to find a way to deal with another bolt. Sword of Fire and Ice. Here's a Ledger Shredder. Here's a Death Shadow. Ledger Shredder trigger. Yep. So here's the other bolt down. I'm gonna ditch the Spell Pierce. So if they decide to like wish for a what's it called? Dryad of the Elysian Grove. I don't know if they even play it or if it's a potential wish target. But at least I've got an answer to that if they do. Got a wish. I'm going to feel really big brained if they actually do wish for a Dryad. Especially if this is like Foothills. Prismatic Omen. So this is going to come down to a land drop, is what you're telling me. No, it's not going to come down to a land drop. Because I've got to go down to 410. Yeah, I can't go down low enough. Prismatic Omen. I guess I've got prismatic endings in my deck. Nope. All right. Scapeshift with prismatic Omen. Is that a common thing out of them? So even if I had drawn a land there, I needed to go down to 3 to make Shadow a 10/10, 2/2 on the sword, plus the 2 damage off the trigger. I guess I only needed to go down to 11 so they couldn't fetch, but then I was dead to any land drop off the top. Really surprised you didn't take Wish with Thoughtseize and that you ditched Pierce. So they couldn't wish for Scapeshift that next turn. They had the answer to my Shadow and my Ledger Shredder. Spell Pierce was dead after that if they ever wished for a Scapeshift or found a Scapeshift. And Prismatic Ending was nowhere on my radar. So I think it's just kind of like a perfect storm of spells there that led them to that one. Would have probably chucked the sword, but the sword was the only thing that gave me a 1-turn kill out. Like, I could kill in 1 turn if I found a land and they didn't have Prismatic Omen. So we're on the same page. Wish makes you cast right away. Pierce had that line covered for a while. Sure, but maybe that's fair. I don't know. I was kind of trying to play for the upside of just like having my opponent dead. But sure. Would have made more sense. It's not a good wish. It's a bad wish. Yeah. Better. Do I want Feast and Famine? Probably not. Opponent mulligan, so I think I'm going to start off on my hand disruption spell. Sure. Just set up for the hot comeback. Well, I don't know about that with this hand. Let's take a Leyline Binding. Okay. Shadow, say go. Hope this turn I can Teferi, bounce the Dryad, get an attack in. Maybe find some interaction for the Dryad. Bounce a Dryad. No such luck on the interaction for it, though. Do get in a reasonable attack. Presenting lethal with a shadow next turn. Never mind on that lethal thing. So they get to play Dryad here. They can play another fetch lane because I know they've got a Misty. Kill Teferi, 4 to me. Never mind. Oh, they found a prismatic ending. Ooh. Yep. Of the last league go, ended up 4-1. Omnath, Scapeshift, Omnath, Rhinos, Omnath, Pile, Omnath, Elemental Pile with Omnath, Clips combo with Omnath. Yeah, like this thing's just the linchpin for such a ridiculous amount of decks. It's kind of nutty. Black, white, blue. Like, it's kind of insane that there's people out there that don't realize how much degeneracy like Omnath enables. Look at it like, oh, it should be the fairest of fair, slow, grindy value mid range cards, but it's not the case. It and Archon of Cruelty are neck and neck for the card that just like hit the board and turn the game around completely. It's like Omnath is face value a 4/4 or 4 mana 4/4 that draws a card, and your next land you gain 4 life, and that's like okay, whatever. But in reality, the card is 5 mana, 4/4, draw a card, gain 4 life, make 5 mana. Living End. All decks are so homogenized right now. Leyline Binding was not a good printing in the format and helping that. It was not. Absolutely was not. Leyline Binding was horrendous for stopping anything that was already absurd and just made it so they've got another 1 or 2 mana answer for like anything that could be problematic. All right, we do have a 1-of Spell Pierce in the main. I guess they could just have a force here. All right, there we go. You got there. Used to be a lot of interesting questions when it came to deck building, specifically with which color combination to play. Now, when asked what color you should play in Modern, the answer is simply yes. What colors should I play? All of them. Every single last one. I guess Fire and Ice is a little bit better than Feast and Famine. Not by some insane degree of magnitude, but okay. a Soul Guide into a turn 2 Stoneforge that could just get a Lion Sash. But a lot of this is also just going back to the discussion about like, yeah, Leyline Binding is an annoying card. They shouldn't have printed it into a format with 4-color. But again, Wizards doesn't care that Modern is a format with 4-color. Like, they're creating cards like that for the purpose of selling packs in Limited and not for the purpose of like caring about enabling or not enabling janky 4-color stuff. I'm just getting Cauldra here. Yeah. Cauldra backed up with a couple counter spells. Like, they're making Leyline Binding for a limited format. Maybe for Standard. Maybe for Alchemy or Historic or whatever on Magic Online. They're not making it for those of us sitting here playing Modern and all right. Can we get there from here? That is the question. That's a reasonable looking one. Let's get a Swamp, cast our Teferi, Time Reveler. Ice my Soul Guide Lantern. I'm going to assume my Teferi resolves after all of this. Needs to be banned. Does not need to exist in a format. The part that always cracks me up with like Teferi is I swear to all things just and holy, there are people that think this card is a perfectly fine and reasonable design. And I, for the life of me, cannot understand that. So, like, oh, Teferi's necessary, Teferi's fine and balanced, and blah, 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 blah. You are beyond high. I'm not keeping this because of just Soul Guide Lantern and opponent mulligan. I'll keep it. If I rip out some lands into Teferi, could be really, really good. Teferi is in fact nuts. Like I said, you legitimately have people that think the card is fine. They're just like, I don't see the problem. It's reasonable, it's balanced. Assume they're going to pay the one. As long as these Cascade decks are in the format, I think Teferi is a reasonable card to have in the format. I don't like that argument because I don't like saying that, like, option B is okay because option A is in the format. Like, neither of them should be around. And I think we can agree on that part, but I just don't like this, oh, A is reasonable because B exists sort of circular logic. It's just like a really, really deep, dark rabbit hole. I'm going to attempt to put a Teferi Time Reveler that should be banned on the stack. I would appreciate it if you did not interact with it in any sort of meaningful way. Thank you. You may now move on with your life. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll say the same thing about not only like Teferi and whatnot, but I'll say it about Mishra's Bauble, Expressive Iteration. Like, these are all cards that shouldn't be in the format. They are. Sucks. So bounce you so I can Thought Seize, maybe find extra land. Haha. Here's a shadow. Sego. Personally, I really like the playstyle Living In has an archetype, so it would not be banning the cards since you don't even have any good glass cannon combo decks like Storm anymore. My only issue with Living End is the interaction with Violent Outburst and like Force of Negation. I'm 100% in the camp that like Violent Outburst shouldn't be in the format. It's a card that I think sets up the potential for like protecting your combo at instant speed on your opponent's turn, which was the exact thing that Force of Negation was meant to stop. And now it's just like getting used as an enabler. Edwara's fine. And you shouldn't be able to use like your combo piece as an enabler or your combo protection. You know what I'm trying to say. And I apologize. I just really do not want to lose to Living End right now. Want to ban Force in that case? Because Force is the card that's meant to help fight combo decks. Like, it doesn't make sense to ban force when you could just ban violent outburst and then force does its job. Like, you can't make the argument of, oh, the mana is too bad or anything like that, because you get all these triomes and fetches, whatever kind of shock you want. You still have Demonic Dread. You have Ardent Plea if you want a non-targeting Cascade spell. There's still plenty of Cascade spells. But the fact that Violent Outbursts instant speed and allows you to protect everything with Force Negation on your opponent's turn, I think is too much, especially when there's already like such a play draw disparity in Modern. Being able to, on your opponent's third turn, on their upkeep before they hit a land drop, cast your Violent Outburst and protect it with Force Negation. When your opponent can't force back. Because they printed Force, they banned Simian Spirit Guide and hammered down on. They banned Simian Spirit Guide because they were comboing their Cascade spell into Tybalt's Trickery. And like, Oops All Spells. And those were a whole different breed of combo deck because of Simian Spirit Guide. Fact is, I think Modern is pretty well balanced right now. If you don't like all the broken stuff in Modern, try playing Pioneer Standard. If you want Battle Cruiser Magic, I think there's a very big misconception here where, like, when I say cards should be banned, I don't necessarily mean they should be banned purely on a power level standpoint. Like, they should be banned in the sense that they shouldn't have been printed in the first place. There's a lot of cards right now that just disrupt the idea that I believe Magic was kind of founded on. Like Teferi not allowing cards to be played at instant speed. One of the key ways of interacting with opponents and control decks has always been fighting at instant speed. And just taking that out of the equation is a pretty significant deal. Or like Omnath, 4-color greedy mana base decks should be punished by aggressive strategies. And Omnath just negates that entirely. Anybody ever Pauper? I mean, tried it once or twice. Who's my opponent playing? This just like straight up living in with a bad start. Every time I see like a bunch of blue-red lands and cyclers, I just think like blue-red living end, electro dominance living end. Nope, just actual factual living end. I'd argue they never intended for instance to be that prevalent. I mean, you say that where Lightning Bolt, Dark Ritual, Ancestral Recall, all instants. Or interrupts, sorry. magic fogies. Architects of Will. All right. Guess we're on the long haul with this Sentinel. 2 of the 3 types played at sorcery speed. Yeah, but there was an option to play at instant speed. How about a shadow off the top? I would love to get this Lion Sash down, but I really do not want to tap off my mana until I've got like a way to play Lion Sash and hold up Drown. Shadow. I mean, I guess technically that speeds up the clock. Eventually my opponent's gonna realize they can just like hard cast some big dumb fatty, and that's gonna run away with the game. Like, oh yeah, here's a striped river winder. Huh. That's pretty good. Let's see, Big Lefty 40. Thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome what day is it? Tuesday, wherever you're at in the world. Appreciate you coming around and hanging out. All right. So that's 1 living in down. So if we can just maybe drown and lock the other 2, if they're only playing 2, they might be playing 3. We could also just mess around and find a shadow, like right here. It's not a shadow, but it does mean I can at least cast Lion Sash. Hiya. Odawara my Lion Sash. Kind of rude. Best creature ever, Sarah Angel. Shivan Dragon would like to have a word with you. All right. No cards in hand. So let's find a white source for this Lion Sash. Ooh. This has been the most painfully slow death by 1,000 cuts ever. Are you liking Esper Sentinel in your Shadow deck? I play a decent amount of Shadow and never found Sentinel to be great. Sentinel seems to be best in aggressive archetype like Hammer and not really mid-range decks like most Shadow decks. So it's a little bit different in this list because this is a Stoneforge Mystic Stoneblade list. So Esper Sentinel gives us like a really good proactive 1-drop that can gain a little bit of value, strap up with a sword later, but helps to kind of like tempo those early turns a little bit. Is it going to be the best thing you can do at that spot? Probably not, but I'm only running it because I'm running Stoneforge Mystic and want more bodies. I wish I could say there were more better reasons, but there's not. So 1-drop, I can strap a sword onto that if my opponent interacts with it early, it replaces itself. On the draw, we've got a hearse. High risk, high reward. Opponent, feast your eyes upon the end and see that it is nigh. They see our greed. They know we're going to rip this land right off the top, right here. The end, opponent. 'Tis nigh. 'Tis nigh. Makes sense. Can hit a removal spell that otherwise hit a Stoneforge. Right. It's just like something we can do early and actively. I would never look at it and say, oh my god, this is S tier magic. How does anybody ever live in a world without this card? Oh, I want a hearse. I just can't. All right. You're on a clock. Tiny little 1-1 clock. Yeah. And thankfully, The gentlemen that they are, speeding up the clock for us. I assume this means they found a copy of Mystical Dispute. Yep. All right, let's go to game 3. Let's try to find a hand with at least a couple more lands. Ledger Shredder's a lot better on the play. Probably cut the sword. Stoneforge. Man. Turok would have looked really good there. If we'd had lands and a Turok. Love to play first. Speak of the devil. So let's lead on Inquisition. Take a violent outburst. Say go. Cast a Turok. Opponent doesn't even cycle in response. They don't care. Architects of Will down. Reef me. Why would you take the Inquisition over the Thoughtseize? What is the reasoning there? Opponent's over it. Fair enough. Okay, so we ended up 4-1. Our one loss was to Teamer Scapeshift. But pretty cool. Like, we beat Living End a bunch, which I'm not too surprised about with, like, Teferis and counter spells in the main, more counters in the board, a little bit of grave hate. Seems like Living End should be a really good matchup for us. So yeah, like, I don't have too much to say. I don't think hardly any of our card choices in this list are optimal, but nobody ever said we were out here playing optimal shadow lists, right? I think if you're wanting to adjust a little bit more for the current modern meta game, then I can very easily see, like, finding room for more spell pierces, try to fight over, like, early planeswalkers, Wrens, Teferis, maybe early leyline bindings. The third Inquisition could be a reasonable choice. Lion Sash, I wish it were better. I think it's probably just too slow and clunky. So I could absolutely see that one coming out. We never saw Snapcaster. Ledger Shredder, I still think is pretty meh. So I think, like, realistically, any of these are kind of flex spots. Maybe some number of prismatic endings. So if you're run to run more Teferis or another impactful card early in the game, then those would be like the first spots I'm looking at cutting. In the sideboard, everything kind of serves a purpose. Like maybe another Infernal Grasp, but with like Teferi and Thoughtseize, Sword of Fire and Ice, you should be okay against Murktide. Mystical Disputes, Flusterstorms, all that in the board. But yeah, there's several directions the deck could potentially go. I don't think anything is like out of the question or absurdly good, absurdly bad. It's just like Esper reasonable Magic cards, right?